My name is Dr. Mario Galicia, and I'm here to talk to you about the experiences that I've had to go through in my education. Now, I'm the first in my family to graduate with a PhD. I've also delivered 3 commencement speeches at colleges. I've earned a prestigious teaching award from the university as a graduate student. And so I have a resume that I feel can hold itself up against some of my peers. However, it hasn't been easy to get here, right? And so as many of us understand, our educational journeys inform us. They help us move as we go through our journey of life. And so I'd like to share with you how some deficit thinking has in the past hindered me, but also share with you how as educators you all can flip that in your own script with the students that you work with. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm the youngest of 3, born to 2 Mexican immigrant parents. My mother is from Tepacaltepec, Michoacan, for those from Michigan of the South that are in the house. And my dad's family is from Sinaloa, Mexico. So if you know anything about those 2 states, the combination can be a very feisty one. And so growing up in our household, it was always interesting. I like to say that we speak very animatedly. We speak in loud tones, and sometimes it can be misunderstood for yelling, but we love each other, and it's just how we talk. My mother and father implemented this toolbox mentality in us. Now, my dad worked as a demolition contractor most of his adult life, and my mother was basically the second mother in her house. She was the oldest in her family, and as such, when she was born, she was basically assigned the role to be a second mom. They taught her how to take care of a household. She was able to walk her siblings to school, take them to their classroom, but she was never allowed to obtain an education herself. So when she was 17, she immigrated to the United States. She ended up in Los Angeles. She worked in the sweatshops downtown in the fashion district. So some of you walk around and los callejones, and you buy these nice shirts that you might see at Macy's for like $50. Well, a lot of the tall buildings around there that are blacked out is where those shirts are being produced, and my mom used to work in those buildings. Now, my mom and dad met in LA. Long story short, they have 3 children. I'm the youngest, right? And so this toolbox mentality really came because my dad, working in demolition, had toolboxes all over the house. Right? We would trip all over them because we lived in a small apartment, but my dad's demolition business required all these tools, and he couldn't keep them in the truck because guess what would happen if we left tools in the truck? He was going to get jacked, and it happened often. And so these tools he would teach us. And there was this one saying that I remember from a very young age that my dad always imprinted into our minds, and it was like, if you don't learn how to use this, I'm going to teach you how to use these, because you're going to know how to survive as an adult, and you're going to be able to provide. And so that was my dad's focus, right? So wrenching away, learning all these different tools. My mom, on the flip side, she offered, the other half of that education. And that education was like, I guess it was much more straightforward, right? It was much more about your task-driven kind of day-to-day assignments, right? Because she was this homemaker. She learned how to take care of those situations. My mother taught me, how to care. I get emotional. There's times I get emotional speaking to my mother because I look around. Had she been given another opportunity, had she been raised today, she could be with us. She's every bit as talented, right? And this takes me to this memory that I had as a child in first grade, where these teachers saw me as unmotivated. They saw me as, disinterested. And my first grade teacher wanted to hold me back. And I had an assistant in that classroom who sent a note to my parents. And my parents came to school and they're like, why is he going to be held back? Because all of my grades were good. She said I was unmotivated and I didn't speak English well enough. This other teacher that was in there, the assistant in the classroom, advocated for me to take a test in the school, like an assessment test, to see whether or not it was true. I actually ended testing into 3rd and 4th grade English, science, and math. So for the remaining part of that year, thanks to this assistant teacher, I was shuttled out for half the day into 3rd and 4th grade classes as a 1st grader to do science, math, and reading. So I didn't speak English well, but I sure could read it, and I sure could tell you what I read. And so in that moment, one of the things that I understood was that that teacher, she had my back. That teacher stood up for me when I knew that my parents couldn't, because my dad worked 60 to 80 hours a week, because my mom didn't speak the language, because my mom didn't have that experience of advocating or being advocated for. Now, I was able to take that experience in 3rd grade. I tested into the gifted and talented program. All the way through 6th grade, I had wonderful teachers. Then I hit junior high, and my experience changed again. But I always went back to that 1st grade story, because in 1st grade, I learned a lot of what I had to experience in the rest of my educational journey. I knew that there was going to be bumps in the road. I knew that there were going to be authority figures that might stand in my own progress. But I also knew that there would be people there to support me and get me through to the next stage. So what I love to do is I love to go around when I speak with families and students today, and I like to look into their toolbox. And I like to do an activity titled, What's in Your Toolbox? Because what I would have loved for that teacher to have done in 1st grade was looked inside of my toolbox and said, you're very well equipped to pass based off of reading, math, and science scores. I should have skipped the grade instead of being held back. I wish that there had been more people around that could have looked into that toolbox and helped fill it. Maybe help shape some of those tools. The great thing is about this toolbox, that just like my real toolbox, I get to switch tools every once in a while. I get to toss out what I don't need, some stuff I broke, some things I don't know that I need, but I have wonderful people around me to tell me, hey, maybe you should look at this. So what I like to offer and suggest to you as educators is to dig into your toolbox and ask yourself, are you thinking about students in a positive light? Are you presenting them opportunity? Or are you suppressing them and having them fall into a hole that might be hard for them to get out of? And if it's the latter, then it's no shame. That's just where you are. We'll help you get to where you want to be. Thank you.